Hi, I'm Ryan F. Gassian, and this is Canada and the World, a progressive channel devoted to Canadian and world politics. I'll be tackling some of the most controversial issues of the day with an emphasis on how they affect Canadians. Please support my channel by subscribing and hitting the like button below. Remember, if you press the little bell, you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. And you would be helping me considerably if you share it via the share button. Now, the Roman Empire fell because of migrating German tribes. The Aboriginal people of Canada were displaced due to immigrating Europeans. Europe has recently witnessed a rise of right-wing parties, be it the Golden Dawn in Greece or the NPD in Germany, driven in part because of the influx of refugees from Syria. History has been shaped by the migration of humans. Not even our bodies have been left untouched. Look at a Caucasian, and you'll notice a lighter pigmentation, the result of a mutation that wouldn't have arisen if our ancestors hadn't moved to colder climates. At the dawn of a new age, not just for humanity, but for the entire world, we will see new migrations as people respond to changes in climate. Many parts of the world inhabited today will become desolate wastelands in the future, incapable of supporting human life. Where will those people go when their lands have become ravaged by drought and flooding? Most likely north to places like Canada and Russia. And what will that mean for the current inhabitants of those lands? In the weeks leading up to the 2008 midterms, President Trump warned his followers about a caravan moving through Mexico towards the U.S., claiming that it was an invasion. In truth, this caravan was no different than the countless others that have made the journey. It didn't comprise of highly trained militiamen or cold-blooded terrorists. Instead, it was made up of mostly women and children seeking a better life or escaping war-torn countries. Now, we can debate over the merits of letting them in. We could argue that while we feel bad for them, we don't have the resources to care for them. That's not my position, but it is a position that many on the other side hold, and not all are racist bigots like Trump. So, we can have a debate on how many refugees, if any, we should take in. What can't be debated is the reason why these people are risking life and limb to make the dangerous journey north. This is important because we are entering a new age, one that will see levels of migrations never imagined, for global warming will change the fates of all. Not that long after Trump called the caravan an invasion, he declared that he would end all subsidies for green energy, including electric cars. Before anyone claims that Trump is being principled, know that the fossil fuel industry gets $20 billion a year in subsidies. Trump didn't talk about slashing them, just those going to the clean energy market. Around the same time, he rolled back EPA rules that would prevent coal plants from pumping more CO2 into the atmosphere. And these are just a handful of the actions the Trump administration has taken as of late that will make it harder for the rest of the world to meet the goals set out in the Paris Accords. This bodes ill for the future of all life on Earth. Unless drastic actions are taken, we are likely heading towards a world that is 2 to 4 degrees hotter than it is today. At 2 degrees Celsius, we can expect sea levels to rise high as 50 centimeters. Coastal cities around the world will be hit with major flooding. Some areas, including much of Florida, will be underwater, and entire populations will have to move inland. For developed nations like Canada and the US, this will be doable, if costly. The same cannot be said for undeveloped countries like Vietnam and Cuba. This will lead to the first wave of migrations from the exterior of nations to their interiors. However, that is only one aspect of climate change. Another effect it will have is on the weather. Not only will hurricanes and blizzards become more common and destructive, but we will see prolonged droughts. At 4 degrees Celsius, expect the collapse of farming in regions like Sub-Saharan Africa and South America. The Amazon rainforest will be on fire. With no food and water, the people living in those areas will be forced to migrate north. Instead of being inundated by thousands of refugees every year, tens of millions will be banging at America's doorstep, demanding in. It is at this point that things become dangerous for Canada. As America is being swamped by refugees, its leaders will look north for a solution. Canada has 10% of the world's fresh water. As the earth gets hotter, more of our land will become useful for agricultural and habitation. Under a democratic regime, the United States would work with Canada to develop these resources. However, a Republican administration might decide to annex parts of Canada for itself. This is not fear-mongering on my part. History shows that populations react badly to sudden, unexpected changes, even if the changes are merely cosmetic. Look at Germany. It accepted 1 million refugees, and the backlash to this resulted in a rise of far-right groups like the Alternative for Germany Party and the neo-Nazi NPD. In response, Chancellor Merkel has made it clear that she will not be running again. This scenario could play out in the United States 50 years from now, as it finds itself confronting a refugee crisis of even larger proportions. The direction that the current Republican Party is heading should concern us all. The grand old party of John McCain and George Herbert Walker Bush is dead. Under Trump, it has become more xenophobic, more authoritarian. All evidence suggests that it will continue down this path, even after Trump has left office. We should remember that Trump ran against 6 other Republicans in 2016. The base had options, and yet it went with the most bombastic and xenophobic among them. In my book, Darkness in America, the American people elect Gregory DeConte as president. He is a more charismatic and intelligent version of Donald Trump. More importantly, he has an ideology, one that drives him to murder billions in the name of his religion. Could we see Americans elect a real-life Gregory DeConte if millions of refugees begin approaching their borders? It is very likely. And again, this real-life DeConte might use Canada as his dumping ground, swapping us with millions of mouths we cannot feed. More likely, he will take parts of Canada he likes and let the refugees settle in those less suited for habitation. What will become of we Canadians? Canada could not stop America should it decide to annex our lands. So the more relevant question is, are we made American citizens? The answer would be to look at how the U.S. is currently addressing the question of citizenship. For months, Trump has threatened ending birthplace citizenship. This means that you don't just become an American citizen if you are born in the United States. You must be born to an American citizen, or you must be nationalized. Trump cannot do this, not with an executive order anyways, but the fact that he would shows how popular this idea is among Republicans. They fear giving African Americans, Latinos, and other minorities rights because they may not vote for them. During the 2018 midterms, we saw countless examples of voter suppression by the Republicans, and after the elections, in the case of Wisconsin, the Republican-controlled Congress stripped both the governor and the attorney general of much of their power. Why? Because the voters of that state elected Democrats into office, and being poor losers, the Republicans decided to rig the system. Now Republican-controlled Congress will have most of the authority. If Republicans will not blink at shafting their own citizens, why would we think that they would treat us fairly? Ironically, we Canadians will likely be condemned to the very fate the Aboriginals suffered at the hands of our ancestors, the fate that the Palestinians currently live with. We will be stuffed into cities and not allowed to move, not without permission by our American masters. The only way to avoid this grim future is 1. Take drastic steps to mitigate the worst consequences of climate change, and 2. Destroy the Republican Party. In my opinion, these two steps are linked. The Republican Party is irredeemable. It is no longer the party of Lincoln or Reagan. It is the party of Donald Trump. It cannot be saved. It cannot be reasoned with. Its leaders deny that either climate change is happening or that humans have anything to do with it. So, the question now is, what can we Canadians do? Sadly, little, I'm afraid. In my stories, I often portray the Americans as the bad guys, not because I hate them, but because I recognize the dark path that they are on. My hope is to inspire them to act, because in the end, they are the only ones who can. It is not enough that they beat the Republicans in future elections. They must change the way their system works. Their system is rotten. It didn't start out this way, but it has since grown decrepit and diseased, and now threatens not only their national security, but the world's as well. If you are an American and listening, join groups like Wolfpack or Justice Democrats. These organizations are dedicated to gain money out of your politics, which allows big oil to buy your politicians and prevent them from taking actions on the most important issue of our lifetime. So, you agree with my assessment of the situation? And what changes need to be made? Please let me know in the comments section below, and please hit the subscribe button, as well as give me a like. Oh, and please visit my website at www.darknessinamerica.com, where you can read short stories that take place before my upcoming novel, Darkness in America. My story is about a future United States where people live in fear of inquisitors, telepathic assassins who police the populace for thought crimes.